Oops.
It's a three Amigoes.
Yeah. Actually, we should do this.
Oh, hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it must be Talk of the Town. This is the Three Amigos with Andrew Botier, a wrestling Brewster, and the infamous Tim Grandy to my right.
Infamous.
Infamous.
He brought notes.
He brought notes. Anyways, today is the last day of September. It's the 30th. And if my calculations are right, because the last sheet that I had was from August 12th, my little read sheet here. So I'm calculating that this is actually the 394th show, I think. 91st, thank you, from the booth. Anyways, my name is Andrew Botier, as I mentioned, and welcome to Talk of the Town. Want to thank everybody for being here. First of all, our great underwriters. Wrestling Brewster, Brewster PC Solutions, right here to my right. And also underwriters of Kevin and David Gallerani, owners of Cape Auto Body and Service, locations in Somerset and Sandwich Street. Also, they're great service, great people, and they've been there for a long, long time. And then I know that we have some other underwriters, but I don't see them on my sheet. So, one of them is...
Hold up your pen.
Hold up my pen. Can you come in and read that a little bit?
One stop painting.
One stop painting?
He can't because he's in here.
Anyways, but today's show is, again, the Three Amigos, where we kind of just talk about nothing. It's like a Seinfeld episode. Just three
Without Seinfeld
three
or
guys
anybody
bloviating. So, but I know that there was just, if you guys want to talk
definitely not the Big Bang Theory.
one of my favorite shows. Oh my God, that's a great, great show. Great writers, like this show has. Anyways, we wanted to kind of just get some topics going. So I know that there was just a vote a little while ago. Does anyone want to talk about that vote?
Wow, gee, you're
Just throwing it right out
just
there.
throwing it right out there.
This is a show to inform the residents and the citizens of Plymouth what the hell's going on in town. So don't look at me like that. What do you have to say? Or
What the hell?
if not, we'll talk about the Red Sox and the
That's
Bengals.
what the hell?
Hey.
What the hell?
I've heard worse on cable TV.
Yeah.
Mark
So
Lloyd.
haven't I. Oh, yes, I remember Mr. Lloyd. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's still in town, right?
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't
Not
heard
sure.
anything.
Let's start. Apparently, before I came in this evening, there was a re-vote by the
No, a
advisory-
re-vote.
A re-vote.
Yes.
Oh, a re-vote. Maybe you could fill me in on the re-vote.
Well, it was a vote that they revoted again.
Yeah. FinCom had a meeting tonight, and they were re-voting on whether the
Zoning Board of Appeals.
zoning board should be elected or appointed. They're appointed now. I think the charter review came up with it originally, right?
The charter currently states that the Zoning Board of Appeals is appointed by the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
When we reviewed the charter as a charter review committee member, there was three options put forward to the charter review committee. One was status quo, leaving them appointed as they currently are by the Board of Selectmen. The second option was the same appointment process with a confirmation hearing by the legislative branch of the government in Plymouth, very similar to a federal judges confirmed through the legislative branch when they are selected by the sitting president of the United States. So that was presented also. The third option, which was brought forward by a few residents, quite a few, through phone calls and making presentations at the Charter Review Committee, was an elected zoning board of appeals. And that was what was recommended to town meeting by the Charter Review Committee through a vote of the Charter Review Committee or Commission committee. And went forward to the Advisory and Finance Committee, who voted originally 11-1 in favor of an elected zoning board of appeals.
Right.
The Board of Selectmen voted 5-0 not in favor of an elected zoning board of appeals. They also had a second meeting, which came from a request by the zoning board chairman, so that they could come in to the Advisory and Finance Committee and speak to the issue of elected versus appointed. During that particular meeting, the opportunity was given to Advisory and Finance Committee members. Being on the prevailing side, you would have to reconsider
Right.
and re-vote that particular advisory suggestion to the town meeting members. No one raised their hand,
Right.
so therefore the vote stayed the same, 11-1, to recommend the town meeting to move forward with a elected zoning board of appeals. Apparently this evening, through the review of language that wasn't submitted to the Advisory and Finance Committee originally, which made some corrections,
Right.
I guess through Copeland and Page, allowing the clerk to make some adjustments as far as 5 years term at a zoning board member.
It was the
It was
language
strictly-
wasn't any big deal.
The corrections in the language were not significant.
Didn't change anything.
It didn't change anything. So apparently that vote was reconsidered again this evening, and it was voted 4 in favor, and I heard from you guys, 4 in favor. I don't know what the,
Yeah.
So
so
7
it's
against.
4 in favor and 7 against
Yeah.
an elected zoning board of appeals.
Which is the whole process there, kind of. I don't know what the town the town meeting, or sorry, the town meeting times or whatever we go by is the rule, but kind of squirrely to vote on something, have a request, have no request to revote, and then vote on it again, and then kind of squirrely.
Apparently, Advisory and Finance Committee members had the opportunity to delve into the language and hear from a few people, whether it be at the meeting this evening or through word of mouth over the past couple of weeks, and had a change of heart as far as
That many
their
people to
opinion.
have a change of heart, that's kind of interesting.
So
That's
What
kind
do
of
other
interesting.
towns that have a zoning board, or bigger towns, does anyone know?
well,
how they,
in my research of looking at 1/3 of the total communities in the state of Massachusetts, approximately 3 of that 1/3 had an elected zoning board of appeals. The other communities have an appointment process, whether it be through the Board of Selectmen or through the mayor, who would appoint the zoning board of appeals, but then confirmed by the
another
city
body.
council.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
there
through
was some
the-
checks and balances.
So there was checks and balances. Currently, there are no checks and balances. It's just an appointment process
Right.
through the Board of Selectmen. This is one of the reasons why the Charter Review Committee felt that there should be checks and balances, and the Zoning Board of Appeals members should be beholden to the elected
Yeah. Electorate, that's how you.
public.
yeah.
That's how you.
And some of the arguments that the Zoning Board of Appeals members had when they came before the Charter Review Committee was, one, they didn't want to spend money on signs and raise money for an election,
Personal.
and they also thought that the residents in the community don't understand zoning across the community in the town of Plymouth, so how could they actually know who they were electing as far as being involved as a judge in deciding factor in the
Wow.
Sounds like most of our
Zoning
political
Board of
elections.
Appeals.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Wow. Like a planning board.
Oh,
What does the GQ public know about that?
well, the planning board is an elected board, and we only make adjudicatory decisions probably in about 5 to 10% of the cases in village
Right.
open space developments, master plan
Right.
developments. But most of the adjudicatory decisions are done by the zoning board of appeals. They're actually judges.
Right.
So when you go for a special permit, a business goes for a special permit, those 5 members sitting in that particular case are actually judges. In our founding fathers, back when the Constitution was
Should we start singing
Written.
Glory, Glory?
for the United States of America, it was felt by the founding fathers that the public should be involved in the judicial process.
Right.
And in order to understand the judicial process, you should be electing your judges that are making decisions.
Yeah.
For the people, by the people.
For the people, by the people, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Now, let's go to the other side of the equation where there is the potential for donations being made for a judge
To influence.
to influence them. So would special interests be able to influence a zoning board member or a judge, which they are, through donations to their campaign if they run for office versus an appointed process through the Board of Selectmen?
Right.
So
3
that-
years is the appointment?
I'm not too, I think it's 3 years currently for zoning board members before they go back before the Board of Selectmen for the appointment process.
Yeah.
Also currently, I will give an example for an appointment process to the zoning board would be, and I'll give an example, it's Doug O'Rourke. You don't know who Doug is, right? He put his application in
That's right.
to the zoning board of appeals.
Yep.
And he was appointed for approximately about 30 to 45 seconds. He was an actual member of the zoning board of appeals.
That's a short term.
A very short term. So another member of the Board of Selectmen at the time said, well, maybe we should reconsider that because Doug O'Rourke already sits on a few other committees in the town of Plymouth, so therefore we should give the other gentleman, even though he may be less qualified than Mr. O'Rourke. I'm trying to pronounce it properly. I always called it O'Rourke, but at the last meeting, we were corrected. I think it's O'Rourke.
Okay.
I think
you're right.
I think I'm
I think
correct.
you're right.
I could be mistaken. Doug, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, please let me know.
Yeah, give us a call.
Yeah,
Give us
call
a
us
call.
at 508-830-3971.
So
Ring, ring.
he was a zoning board member for 45 seconds.
Wow, good for him.
Wow.
And then he was removed due to the fact that he already served on a couple other
Right.
committees. So is that the true review process to select zoning board members or judges that make decisions on special permits in the town of Plymouth?
Almost like not based on qualifications, but just sort of based
Right,
on what
right,
your current
exactly.
exposure is on other committees.
Which I would agree.
Which would, if there was an electoral process, you'd really get to know those members of those boards, as opposed to
Yeah.
And
Five
maybe
people on the-
and maybe the statement that the average citizen in Plymouth doesn't understand it, so let's not get them involved. Well, if they understood it, then maybe there'd be more involvement. Maybe
yeah.
they'd understand more.
If you talk- if
How
you-
are the residents going to understand zoning in the town of Plymouth, planning, et cetera, without a debate process, a vetting process?
yeah.
right, they should know more.
This
about it.
candidate being you, for example. You're going to get a phone call from the newspapers and you're going to ask what your opinion is as far as development is concerned and what your feelings are, et cetera, and the public's going to get the opportunity to see what your opinion is. You may not have any candidates run against you because there is an argument that you may not get good candidates because they don't want to raise the money, signs,
Go through the vetting process.
go
Right.
through the process,
Right.
and you may not get good candidates. We have enough trouble with volunteers in the town of Plymouth. This is some of the other
Yeah.
Yeah.
side of the arguments that
Yeah.
come into play here, because as we all know, there is apathy as far
Huge.
as voting is concerned across the board, not just in Plymouth, but across the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you talk about some of the the construction industry who's got to go before that board. It's a tough process, and it's
Tough in
nothing-
what respect? Tough in
hard to get a variance, hard to get,
Okay.
the board of, they're doing a lot of stuff with different contractors and developers. That's what I was trying to, and developers I talk to, so man, you go there, it's hard.
But shouldn't it be?
It should be, it definitely
should
should
be.
be. Definitely should be, definitely should
Because,
be,
let me give you an example. If he was running, or he was a Board of Selectmen member, and he was running for office, and I helped him in his campaign, holding signs, raising money for him, donating to his campaign, or her campaign, depending on who's running for office.
Bundling
And
foreign
then
contributions.
after they get elected, I put in my application for any committee,
Yeah.
whether it be the zoning board
yeah.
or any committee
Yeah.
across the entire town. So if you have
wow.
this person who donated $500, I think you can go up to 1,000 now, if I'm not mistaken.
You can.
Per
Yeah.
person,
Thank
as
you,
far as
Yeah, per person.
your donation is concerned. So if I donated 1,000 to your campaign as
Put
a
him down
Board of
for
Selectmen member, and I put my application in to be a zoning board member,
And I
this
vote for
other
you.
person hasn't contributed to you at all, is there special interest involved? And are you going to decide, geez, I'm going to appoint Tim
yeah.
because he donated $1,000 to his
Damn
campaign?
straight.
Well, and
Quite
so- and
possible.
so-
I'm not saying it happens, but it's quite possible.
Well, it's quite
you would have
possible.
to say that-
Therein lies the problem.
yeah.
There's
and-
arguments on both sides of the
And in
equation.
that case, you would say that, out of 10 people, and I guess it's just my opinion, out of 10 people, probably at least 50% are going to go with the person that just like we currently do in our national politics.
Right.
I mean, look at
Oof.
they say that on Capitol Hill that the special interest groups, and that's why the American people, that's why we've got, Trump, Fiorina, and Carson that are leading it, because people they're tired of the crap. They're tired of the special
status
interest.
quo.
They're tired
That's
of
why
not
Trump's
having a
gone.
voice anymore,
Right.
and we don't. And to your point, that would fall to the point.
Yeah.
Is the average person who, doesn't hold a sign for you or anybody, doesn't contribute to your campaign. Now all of a sudden they don't have a voice, and that's even in a smaller microcosm of Plymouth versus, the national picture.
Right. So on a smaller scale, you can see where the iron would be. There'd be special interests involved by the election process
Yeah.
that a developer could donate
Right.
to a potential zoning board
Yeah.
member. But I can say this, as a planning board member and running for election and actually running for selectman a few times and for planning board and losing 3 or 4
When did you
times.
last run for selectman?
A couple of years ago.
No, I think it was like
Yeah, it was a while ago.
7 or 8 years
Oh,
ago,
okay.
somewhere
When
in
do you
that
sleep?
time frame. Huh?
When do you sleep?
In his truck.
As
That's
soon
why
as,
he was
as, soon
late.
as soon as this show's over, I'm going to go sleep. But there is legitimate arguments on both sides of the equation.
Yep.
But can a town of Plymouth, because I know the developers that come before the planning board, I haven't received any contributions to my campaigns.
Right.
And even if I did, I'm not going to take that into consideration. As
Should-
far
Or
as-
be the right, or the other part would be.
and if I
give him
did,
back.
I would hope the residents of the community would say, well, he's being affected by special interests. And
Yeah.
the next
He's out of
election,
there.
he's gone.
Right.
I would hope that would be
3
the
years
case.
later.
Or, it's,
Yeah, whatever, yeah.
or if there's anybody that would be a conflict within that particular committee you're on,
Mm-hmm.
that you would just say, hey, I appreciate it, but here's your money back.
Right. Right. That's
No.
that's the right thing to do, but it doesn't always happen.
So it's
And that's why I think when you were talking about the 3 options originally, Tim, that the one, as you've been rolling this all out, the one that really makes sense is that oversight. You can have the selectmen still appoint them, but then there's
Vetting
sort of
process.
that oversight, that vetting process where people can look at it. A group of 5 people who aren't a part of any committee, that aren't on the selectmen, aren't related to a selectman or whatever the case may be, and be able to have the dossier on it, on everybody who's looking, and have that be sort of the final. But here's our recommendations back to the selectmen. I think that to me
That's
makes the
still,
most.
there is an opportunity.
Long process, though.
There's still an opportunity on the town meeting floor that the language could be adjusted by a town meeting member to make that type of correction, I do believe.
Make a note, Ken.
I did hear that the reason why they didn't want to move toward the review process being the committee of precinct chairs, being 15 precincts across the entire town. It's like, God, we don't want to give the committee of precinct chairs any more power, do we?
Oh my goodness. Heaven
Right?
forbid.
That's what you hear
Right.
during the process.
Yeah.
But they are the legislative branch
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
of government.
Right.
So, to me, I would think the elected side was the way to go, where we heard that the committee of precinct chairs were just, we don't want them to be doing a review of a zoning board member and their appointment process.
Yeah.
And you're talking about time frame, and the language that could be written is they would have to hold a meeting within 45 days to do the hearing and the appointment process. And if they didn't make that appointment and didn't hold their meeting within 45 days, then that member of the zoning board would be automatically appointed to the position through the appointment of
Yeah.
the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
If they couldn't get together
Yeah,
in
yeah.
time. So you could write that into the language to ensure that it would be done expeditiously versus waiting, well, it's Christmas, well, it's
Yeah.
Easter,
Yeah.
or whatever the case may be.
Right.
No, you got to make sure the review process would be done expeditiously.
Sounds very reasonable.
So,
I mean, you know,
It does. I gotta say, it does sound that.
out of all the options we're looking at, you know, that seems to be the one that makes the most sense.
Well, and it's unfortunate that change is tough in any government, but especially in
Oh,
the
life
Plymouth
period.
government.
I mean, in
Right,
everything.
and that's why. Oh my goodness, we're going to start electing them, and that's why everybody gets up in an uproar and calls their representative and says, "Oh, you're going to make sure they revote."
You have to remember, they might be a fantastic zoning board of appeals, but 15 years down the road or 12 years down the road, they may not be.
Yeah,
You know, who knows?
Right.
The appointments, the Board of Selectmen changes, the board changes. What direction? As the Board of Selectmen voted 5-0, because I'm sure that they wanted to, had issues and wanted to keep some control over their appointment process to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And if I was a Board of Selectmen member, well, maybe I might have voted the same way. I don't know. I'm not a Board of Selectmen member. I know being an elected official, I thought it was important that was either some type of confirmation process
You
or,
can't just-
or that they be elected.
yeah, yeah. Which is good, and it's more open, and one of the things that we like as GQ Public is more transparency and seeing that, and it's across the board that you want to see that. It goes back to one of the inherent problems in Plymouth and a lot of communities is we've got 10% voting on any given election, which is ridiculous.
There
It
is
is
one,
appalling, and-
there is one more thing that's part of the equation as far as the sitting zoning board of appeals members. They're also town meeting members.
They're both?
They are
I
both.
thought you couldn't do that.
No, they're allowed. They can be a zoning board member
Really?
and they're town meeting members.
Really?
And,
That's
See, that's where you would seem to you'd have
Wow.
more of a conflict of interest.
so they're voting on
going
twice on some things.
Well, in my opinion, they get 2 bites at the apple.
Wow, I did not realize that.
Because they
Learn something new on
there
Hollywood
has been a
Squares.
couple of cases that zoning board members have got up and spoke on zoning
I
articles.
remember that.
One being the 75-foot height
Right, I
requirement,
remember that.
and getting up and speaking
I get in trouble for
twice,
that.
both times. I
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
what that means, but
Oh,
when
flagged for it.
the zoning board gets up and speaks on a particular zoning board article, is that correct?
Well, technically they should be speaking. They have to get up and say, "I'm speaking as the zoning board," or "I'm speaking as a town meeting member." And how do you
Should they be
differentiate?
voting on that particular
They should be-
article?
they should
Not if,
recuse
not if I were.
Well, there is history that they have voted and
Yeah.
they do
Because
speak.
that's also been
Wow, I did
zoning
not realize
changes.
that.
Yeah.
So if you take a couple steps back, if they were elected, they could not be town meeting members.
That is correct.
So maybe there's another reason why they don't want to change it. So
I don't know what
that's very interesting.
Because
But
have we
that
had
is the case
situations
currently.
where we've had during town meeting where they were discussing or voting about the increases for town employees,
He's going there.
but yet they're town employees, but they're also town meeting members.
Yeah, that's the whole
that's a
conflict.
that's a whole separate
But
discussion.
That's
it's
a whole
almost
big can
but it's
of
almost
worms.
like the same.
It's almost the same, but not quite. Yeah.
And it is, you know, it'd be nice if the whole thing with conflict of interest, from the zoning board all the way to employees, it'd be nice if at town meeting floor, we had a bunch of people who were honest and said, "Hey, I think I got a conflict here.
Recuse myself.
I recuse myself." And that's the way the state views it, that you know they should do that, and we as voters, back to that 10%, can vote them out if we don't feel they're doing that correctly. History teaches us that's not happening, and I get it. There's a lot of times, well, you can't get so intricate into conflict of interest. My sister's brother's aunt, works for the town, but there's some direct conflict that's really direct, and that's it. Everybody on town meeting floor knows it. The moderator knows it.
Well, that's
moderator doesn't want to get into it because he'd be the person doing that. So, and it's a tough thing because you have to level the playing field to where, you've got people who have conflict, but hey, we just want to, get some stuff done on the town meeting floor, and, well, if you look at the average, how many people have conflict, how many people are town employees, you get into the whole thing. It'd be great if we had a town meeting where people would say, hey, I got a conflict.
We had a charter review committee member that when we discussed this whole zoning board elected confirmation process, status quo, said, well, if it passes, Tim Graney will be running for the zoning board in the next election. And I'll guarantee you that's not the case.
Yeah.
I won't be
Why did they
running.
say that? Why?
I don't know. They thought maybe it had reason why I wanted to see a confirmation or election process, but that's not the case.
Yeah. And that's an individual, why would you, that you're doing this to get that. And it's to me, it's such a grand scheme thing where if you talk about town meeting as a body that makes decisions twice a year, there's 150 town meeting members now.
It's 15 precincts times 9, so it's 135.
130. Okay, so 135 people making a decision.
That was being tired with no sleep.
I was going to say, that's pretty good math.
I
didn't use the chart. I didn't use the
I'll
chart.
verify that. He didn't use it.
I think this was made in China.
But you get 135 people making a decision. So if you really start doing the statistics and how many people have conflict, how many people are town employees, you get back to what the town wants their people making decisions to be made up of, and how they want town meeting run, and whether town meeting is viable. And if you're talking about, okay, do we have people of character who would say, hey, I've got a conflict, I really shouldn't vote on this.
And you do have that.
You do have that, but 2 years ago we asked how many people had said they had a conflict to the moderator, which you're supposed to do before a vote. On the raises, there was one person.
Raises for who?
For the firemen.
So if I had a cousin who was a fireman and I'm a town meeting
There's a
representative,
fair amount of
do you
firemen
think that's
on
a
town meeting.
conflict?
No, but I'm not getting into the nitty gritty of it. My point
if there's a direct-
my point is
well.
there's at least 20 firemen on town meeting floor.
This is where the electronic voting is going to come into play.
Right.
Okay.
We've
town
argued
meeting?
about this.
You and I have had this conversation.
Right, because you feel that the way the state says is the electric.
It's right here from
Right,
Copeland
but
and Page. I
let me
have it in
finish.
writing.
Let me finish.
I got
Let me
about
finish.
30 pages on it right here.
So
you want me to
you're
read
saying-
30 pages?
so
We don't have
you're
enough
saying
time.
The electorate has the voting right to say, you voted on this, so I'm voting you out because I think you've got a conflict, and you voted on that.
If the electorate who elects their town meeting representatives is paying attention,
So we go back to that 10%.
hopefully it goes higher. It may
Okay.
be less.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
So if they're paying attention, and as far as I'm concerned, if you're of the 90% that don't vote and you complain, don't complain to me.
Oh, no.
I don't want to hear it.
Exactly,
I
exactly.
fully agree with you, 150% on that one.
So of the 10% that may have a question, and I would say, how many realize what's going on, what's being voted on town meeting floor of the 10%?
Two.
What do you think?
2?
You're saying 2%, 3%?
I'm
You
saying
don't know.
2 at the most. I don't know.
You
That's
don't,
an
you don't
obscure
know the
number.
answer. It's an
You
obscure
don't either.
number. You're reaching out into the sky and just
Right.
picking a number out of the air.
You're absolutely right.
If I have a question,
On that.
if I have a question currently or in the past as far as conflict of interest was concerned, how do my town meeting members vote? I couldn't find out unless maybe I went to the town clerk and then go into the report and it'll just see unanimous or a vote of 90 to 42 or whatever the case
But it
may
doesn't
be.
break it out by individual.
It doesn't break it out by individual. So right now we're doing the initial, and you're aware of it, the
Yep.
electronic voting, and there's also
Yep.
an article on the town meeting floor that all those articles will be roll call, which means
Yep.
even though they're unanimous, eventually it's going to be on the town site and it's going to show everybody's name and how they voted
Yep.
on every article.
Yep.
Similar to your state legislative
Yeah.
branch
Right.
and
It-
senators.
it would be-
you
it
can
would be
find out
interesting.
exactly how
Yeah.
they
Oh,
voted
yeah.
on every
Vinny's
particular
votes
article.
are all on the
They're all
on
listed.
the paper.
Vinny's, Tom's, I mean, they're all like that.
Let's say we had an issue with someone who had a conflict, and I looked at my precinct is 12. So if I want to look at how my
Yep.
particular town meeting members voted in precinct 12, I can go on the town website and I can look and see. Oh, well, I know that person is a fireman. Why is he voting on a raise for the fire budget? Well,
Right.
he's certainly not going to. That person would not be getting my vote in the next election,
Right.
right?
But my point is, I think that's a low percentage of people who are going to do that.
Right, but also if you look at state law, it contradicts the conflict of interest provision in the current charter.
Has for how many years?
I know. Now I'm going to follow up with this. The charter provision currently was established in 1999.
Yes.
In the charter.
Yep.
How many times has it been initiated or brought forward?
Because nobody does anything about it.
It's a 0.
Wow.
Right.
Right? It's a 0.
Right.
Okay, so since 1999, even though you suggest in years past, or you think, and I'm saying you think, and
Yep.
there probably has been, quote unquote, not naming names or
No.
whatever the place may be, they certainly could have used that.
Because
charter revision.
nobody's got the chutzpah to say, I think there's a conflict.
Because they know state law contradicts it, and it may be
That back to that 10%?
whatever the percentage is.
Okay.
When you look at the determinations through Copeland and Page, who we pay a lot of money
Yep.
to
Yep.
in the town of Plymouth, the overwhelming language in here, it just does not meet muster as far as state law is concerned. It would basically get thrown out, even if it went to court. It would get thrown out through the state. So why would we, if we were town meeting members, have a provision in the charter that would cost the taxpayers money to go through that process and put the taxpayer at risk financially, whether it's $10,000 or whether it's $5,000
Yep.
legally,
Okay.
for Copeland and Page to defend a town meeting member who had a conflict. And
Oh, I see-
I'm just
I see your
let
reasoning.
me finish. So
Okay.
this is the reasons why the Charter Review Committee recommended removing that provision into the charter, because one, it could put the taxpayer at risk, and two, it doesn't meet muster matching up with state law. So I don't know if the new provision does,
The one that
the one that the
precinct
Committee of
changed?
Precinct Chairs is
Yeah.
moving forward.
I don't know. I
This
haven't seen that
also
stuff on that
brings the question for debate on the town meeting floor, and you can guarantee there will be heavy debate as far as
interesting to see what the
this
debate is.
concerned.
either. I hope it's not just Rick Serkey
Right.
against the world.
So I think I've monopolized a lot here.
Yeah,
so
Well, no, I think
Go ahead.
it's very interesting because obviously, I mean, you know, this affects how things are done in town.
Right.
You know, you were talking about, you know, transparency, and I think that, you know, one of the things, even though we have a
Ranger
very
School.
apathetic populace, both, you know,
Yeah.
here in the town of Plymouth as well as nationally, you know, the one thing that you do here is, you know, that the more transparency and the
Right.
more ways that we
Right.
can get
The
it.
transparency is
You know,
the-
what would be, you know, you're talking about the electronic voting. You know, I'm in precinct 13, and you know, and I know a couple of my town meeting members, but I don't think I've ever been, invited to any type of a precinct forum prior to town meeting.
It's posted in the newspaper
Oh, is it? Okay.
and on the town website.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, shame on me.
He would be that 10%.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you, before you continue, Vinny DiMacedo, Tom Calta, or Matt Moratori are not going to call me and say, Tim, I got a hearing on this particular issue tomorrow. Make sure you come see it.
Actually,
No.
I bet they would. They'd call you.
What I'm saying is
If they needed
it's
to vote.
incumbent upon us to ensure
Yeah.
that when the caucuses are scheduled around town
Yeah.
meeting, and they are held, and sometimes there's 3 precincts that meet at once, they
Yeah.
call it kind of a super caucus.
Gotcha.
And they have
Okay.
town meeting preview with Stephen Trifoletti, which is on PAC TV.
Right.
That you can
Well,
watch.
I'm going to
and pay
be there at my
attention.
next one.
Well,
then.
it's also a lot of people would go to those if they had an issue that they specifically.
Schools would be.
Right. Yeah.
Schools would be
people
big.
out. Yeah.
Right, and it's you see, when they have caucuses and there's some big issue coming up on town meeting floor, you see a lot of people with that special interest.
Yeah.
There's, other than Ken Bukes and a couple other people, nobody goes to all of them.
Yeah.
Just because.
Well, I'm going to go to mine, and I like I said, I know a couple of the town meeting members from Precinct 13, just to kind of again see the process.
Yeah.
And I think, as you were mentioning, that the apathetic portion, which is
Right.
unfortunately a very large percentage, maybe little by little, that when more people understand the process, one, there might be more involvement. So you're like saying, sometimes there aren't enough people, because I see sometimes where somebody is on the, doesn't want to be a committee, a town meeting member, but yet no one else runs.
Right.
And they're almost like by default they stay on.
That's how Jeff Cohen got on.
Yeah.
He said, everybody write my name down. And there wasn't enough people in that precinct, so he got elected.
But I think that's important. I think that's
Yeah.
important. So no, I think that was a great topic, especially
Yeah.
But the current form of government, the truest form of government is a town meeting form of government. There
Yep.
is an argument that once you get to a certain populace, over 50,000,
Yeah.
over 45,000, that you should change your town government to a mayoral form of government
Yeah.
with a city council. But I really don't think that's for the Charter Review Committee to do.
Oh,
Because
heck no. Heck no. Yeah, that's got to be.
I think signatures would be required across the
Yeah.
entire town to put something on the ballot to
Yep.
create a charter review committee for the explicit purpose of creating a.
Right. Oh, do we have a?
We got a caller?
Have we got a caller?
Of course you got a caller.
Oh,
I just,
Welcome, caller.
welcome guys. I just came from the FinCom meeting and I just was kind of upset at the vote they took not to recommend the ZBA to be elected.
Right, we just talked about that.
I'm sorry I just get in for the meeting. I didn't know that. I was very disappointed.
was it? It sounds like Mr. Lydon to me.
Yes, it is. Yes,
So,
it is,
so
Mr.
Stevie, what was
Kennedy.
the final vote?
It was 8-4 to 1.
8-4 to 1, one abstention.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the vote was totally turned around from the last time.
And which is kind of, how'd that happen, Stevie?
Was there a discussion?
There was a lot of discussion. A lot of people didn't like it to go from 3 years to 5 years. They thought that was too much. A lot of people said that you're changing the form of their of how they're elected, and now you change the number of years. That's too much change. Other people were saying that there could be a conflict because somebody who could run for election would have someone I think it was Mr. Conroy said that somebody running for election like a gravel remover could come in and give him $5,000 and that way and the guy could get elected and that
do
way
that
they
now.
would be in conflict and it could be a possible conflict and as Sheila Joyce said, I doubt that could have it happen because the most anyone could donate is $1,000.
Right. Semantics.
Yeah, so it didn't get. It's going to go to town meeting, so we'll see what happens there. I don't know how it's going to go. I know I'll vote for it. I spoke in favor of it.
Yeah.
Last couple of meetings. I think that it is an important board, and they are adjudicating board, and it's true. They do they do make decisions on the law, but it's their interpretation, and who's to say that their interpretation is right all the time?
So Mr. Lyden, the biggest thing was going from 3 to 5 years?
3 to 5 years.
So
yeah, that was
a town meeting member
yeah.
can move it back to a 3-year term.
Well, I don't know. It was. You could tell the way it was going. Everybody was changing their votes, so I think it was.
You think there was a couple of phone calls made over the last 2 or 3 weeks?
I don't know. It could.
You don't know? Could have been?
Know.
Who knows?
I know it was I thought it was kind of funny that the ZBA, who always meets on Wednesday night, had a Tuesday night meeting, and the only thing on their agenda was town meeting issue.
Amazing.
I don't know how they can justify paying a town employee to take the minutes to discuss on how they're going to get elected or appointed. You know, I don't like that. You know, and they're saying that the selectmen are a better way, and they could be less influenced than a election. So.
Wow.
The other thing you were talking about, the conflict of interest, you know, the one that the precinct chairs are proposing has more holes in it than Swiss cheese. It will never get through the Attorney General's office. It's poorly written, poorly done. It's missing a lot of issues that should have been addressed. At one of my positions, I took over a department, and I had to write procedures for the whole department. And if someone came in, a new person came in, I could give them that procedure, and that person could do the job. When you look at this procedure that Mr. Serkey and the crew, wrote, it won't pass. It's not done well.
Oh, that's too bad.
And if anyone thinks there's if people think there's a conflict, town meeting thinks there's a conflict, and basically what this all started about was the firemen. I mean, let's be honest, that's what brought it up, and that's, and town employees. Well, every town meeting feels that was a conflict. All they had to do was go to the moderator and take that line item out of the budget, and have it voted on separately. And that way, right now, they can vote on a total, it's not a line budget they're voting on. They're voting on the total department budget. So if they wanted to, any town meeting could request to take the salary line item out. So you get, just say the police department, you take their salary budget out. Anyone in the police department, it's pretty obvious if they voted. And they shouldn't be able to vote on that particular item. So, I'm sorry, with that group from the precinct chairs, I believe it came personal. The precinct chairs voted not to support it, and then they were, the chair of the precinct chairs, Christine Pratt, kept them there for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And we're not going to discuss as written. We're just going to rewrite it again.
Yeah. Oh, Stevie, well, thanks for calling, buddy.
Okay, and, I just want to say you guys do a great job and keep it up.
All right, you too.
Great.
Hey, Wes,
Yeah.
why don't you talk about the signs?
Signs?
Troublemaker.
I thought that was your ballywick. Thanks, Stevie.
Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.
Any more calls, Ken?
Gallerani call yet?
Yeah, where's Dave? On vacation?
It's his birthday today, right?
Oh, well, we should call him.
Wish Dave Gallerani.
We should have a back phone.
Happy birthday,
Happy
buddy.
birthday, Dave.
Happy
Back
birthday.
phone right here.
Yeah, the red phone. With one of his pens taped on top of the handle.
Yeah, there you go.
He's gonna be
Oh,
mad.
there it is. His name is Gallerani.
He's gonna be mad because one stop painting.
Yeah.
Up, we have a caller.
We have
Hello,
a
caller. Hello, caller.
Hello, caller.
Hey, handsomes.
It's the boss.
You're all so handsome.
Who has the better goatee, though?
That's right. That's right. We all got goatees.
I want to talk about what happened to me today in regards to the conflict law. I noticed in the warrant that, the bylaw is going to be changed the minimum wage is going to come up, and we're going to be voting on that in the bylaw for, compensation, and we have to vote on. Did you know about that?
No.
For town employees.
Okay, so.
Minimum wage for town employees?
No, it's to see if the town will vote to amend the classification and compensation plans and the personal bylaw and collective bargaining agreement.
Oh, the collective bargaining.
Yeah, or take any action there too. They want to come up to the standards of the private sector.
Yep.
So there's a whole bunch of recommendations of what they're going to change, the classification of paying, say, a census taker, a library page, things like that. And there's a whole bunch of, and one of them was election worker. Well, we all know that Ken is a poll worker. So that concerned me. I said, gee, maybe I can pull this out, the line item out.
Yep.
Ask for it to be pulled out, and abstain, and then vote on the rest. But I was told today I don't have to do that. There is no conflict because this is a bylaw change, and it would be a total stretch to do something like that. And the second thing was that the second thing was that Ken may not be a poll worker next time out or ever again.
Yeah.
That had to be considered. And,
It's all about Ken.
The third one. And that town meeting members are exempt.
So Karen, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So in the current provision in the charter, if you vote on that line item, even though you've already clarified and whoever you call, whether it have been Mr. Trefaletti, the state, or whatever the case may be, you could be challenged in the current charter on that particular issue, correct?
I could be challenged, but they're telling me it wouldn't stick. So
Right.
I asked Trifletti to ask Copeland and
Betsy
Page.
Ross?
Yeah, well, the determination is here in 30-page determination. I think you covered.
You keep bringing that up.
Yeah.
I think it's
done
just a
his
bunch of
homework.
papers.
You think you want to start reading?
No, I do not want to start reading.
Okay.
What did you just bring up? I didn't hear you.
The determination from Copeland and Page on the current charter provision,
Yeah.
where it wouldn't stand up.
It wouldn't stand up, but I had to make that clear because I do have a conscience, and I wanted to do the right thing, and now that I know, I can go forward. But town meeting members should know that they can ask for any line item to be taken out for the purposes of not voting on it. And then that way they can vote on the rest.
Right.
So I think town meeting members are beginning to understand that, which is a good thing.
Yes.
So, but okay, guys, you look handsome.
And
Thanks, Mom.
That's what counts, yeah. Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, boss. I mean, I'm not fired yet? No?
Thanks, guys. I'll talk
Thanks,
to you.
Karen.
Bye-bye.
Damn, I was trying to get fired.
We've had two calls, and Gallerani hasn't called.
I know.
He's probably down Mamma Mia sipping
He's
wine.
at Mamma Mia sipping wine. That's why he hasn't called. Yeah, blowing out candles.
Oh, you better call the fire department. Doesn't put that fire out.
No conflict there.
David, if you're listening, don't let them get away with that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right,
call
David.
in.
That's right, David.
830-3971 if you want to be heard on town meeting.
Or anything.
Dave Gallerani's birthday.
Yeah, if you want to hear you heard on Dave Gallagher.
Whatever it might be.
Should we talk about Morton Park?
Yeah, talk about Morton Park. I also just wanted to mention, again, you were just talking about how you guys put together a thank you video, was it, that you sent back to Plymouth, England? Just because I think that is just so extraordinary. Because I mentioned to you I was in Nova Scotia last week, and I was at a bed and breakfast, sitting at this breakfast table with this couple from England, or from Dartmouth, England, and I tell you, they were more excited about this whole Plymouth, England, Plymouth, Massachusetts thing going on, the 400 right here, than most of the people in frickin' Plymouth, Massachusetts are.
There he goes.
What's that?
Yep.
What?
What? Are you sleeping over there? You can't sleep yet.
You said the
You got
word.
10 minutes.
You said the word frickin'.
And you repeated it.
Like a fricassee.
Like a fricassee.
Yeah, chicken fricassee.
That's why I said what?
But they were just talking about the excitement in England for this whole occasion going
Yep,
on.
400.
The amount of money that both the UK
Yep.
and surrounding communities are donating, and yet here we read that the Governor Baker's given his blessing, but.
Yep.
Fine with the Pope gives blessings.
Yeah.
Let's get a check written
Yeah.
and send it down here.
Yeah, if anybody has any pull nationally in these United States, the 400th needs some push in the government. The feds have really been behind the 8 ball on this, and it's 4 years. It's 4 short years
Yeah.
before it's coming. And we actually what you were talking about is the international chorus went over to England, and when we came back, we just did a video. They got a bunch of the kids and a bunch of the parents that went over, and Dr. Maestes, and just did a video about how great it was, how great the experience was, and how wonderful it was. They just found out that the England's sending the kids over here next summer
Nice.
to do it here. So we're going to have 100 kids from here and 30 kids from there do a chorus here.
Where are they going to do that?
Don't know yet. Probably Memorial Hall or something.
Because I'm even thinking that sitting on the board for Project Arts, we do the free Wednesday night music. Mm-hmm. And what nice maybe to get a group of them
Yep.
on stage down there
Yep.
to maybe do just a song or two. I think that would be fantastic.
And one of the things that really gets me is we don't promote it. Noah's chorus from school just sang the national anthem at the Red Sox game last Wednesday. Nothing in the paper, nothing in the local thing, and this international chorus it's just amazing, and it's such a great outreach. And when we were over in England, I said to the English people, what a great bunch of ambassadors, these children, 30 kids coming from the United States going over there, and music is the great uniter.
It's universal.
And it's getting those kids over there doing that was such a great thing. I wish the paper would promote it again, do an interview with some of the kids who went over there, talk about it, because it's a great lead-in to the 400th, and we need to push it. We need to. The number 400 should be everywhere. It should be plastered on any event that is taking place in Plymouth from now for 4 years. It should be everywhere. It should be on every banner. It should be flying. We got to get the town on board. We got to get the state on board. We got to get the feds on board. And we got 4 years, and it's
even the Old Colony on the front page, the upper fold,
Yep.
right above where it says Old Colony Memorial. The
400.
400.
And hopefully soon we'll get our license plates.
Yes.
And that'll be everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's got to be. The town has got to come together. And I talked to a lot of people. There's a lot of people who really are wondering why we're doing this big celebration. And there's a lot of people who say, why aren't we doing more? And the amount of money that it takes and the amount of PR that it's going to take. We're doing this because our forefathers started this country. And when the Pilgrims got here, they had the fortitude to make a compact, the Mayflower Compact, which is the precursor, in my opinion, to, I've said this many times, but precursor to the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and then it. But if you look back at it, that started the United States. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So history is, we've got to remember history, and we've got to celebrate this history, and it's a passion of mine, but it should be a passion of the town.
Well, and like you've talked about, we've talked about, it's not a Plymouth thing.
Yeah.
it's not, and it's not really a national thing. I mean, look at all the other countries who have become democracies that have looked to the example of the United States.
Right.
What are you looking at me like that for?
No, I was looking at him because he's out of the conversation now.
Oh,
No, I'm listening.
he's over there napping.
I monopolized
monopolized
the
40
first
minutes.
40 minutes.
Yeah, you can give us 10.
I'm going to give you
We
a
appreciate that,
15,
Tim.
yes. Usually I sit here quietly, but I
Yeah.
monopolized the
Yeah,
beginning.
no, we're
This
just,
time.
because
but you're right. I mean, it's something where this should be, really being celebrated
Usually
worldwide.
Andrew monopolizes.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I'm a facilitator.
No, you're a monopolizer.
It's like I come with notes.
Well, you're talking to the English people, and I get the same thing, and I kept saying to them, why are you so into this story? We left. And every single person said, well, English people left.
Yeah.
So English people took the Magna Carta,
Yeah.
got on a boat, came over to Plymouth, and over in Provincetown Harbor said, well, we got the Magna Carta, we need to do something for us, and wrote the Mayflower Compact. So it was very English people who started this country.
Yeah.
And that's why they're so into it. And it just, we've got to get that momentum here. We've got to get the enthusiasm just flowing. And we got to get into the schools. I talked to Dr. Maestes, and I'm like, he was saying how a lot of the English kids didn't know the story. And I said, I got to tell you, a lot of our kids don't know the story.
Well, a lot of kids in our schools around the country today don't know a lot of history.
Right. They don't take history.
Yeah.
They take civics.
Not important. Okay, we got like 3 minutes left. Any parting words?
Parting words? Yeah, I have some parting words. Have a great night. I had enough to say in the beginning.
But
But I agree with both what these gentlemen are saying, and I would think that our federal, whoever's representing us at the federal level, should be pushing this.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I would
talked to
hope
Vinny,
that
and Vinny said he was.
the group would have some type of answer or something from our legislative branch at the federal level.
Yeah.
If they're doing something, it must be something that they're doing. And I
Come
hope there
on,
is.
Markey, Elizabeth Warren,
Yes,
get on your horse.
absolutely.
Yeah.
How about you?
Represent Plymouth in the country.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
If you're watching this
If
show,
you're watching this show,
And if you're not, you should be.
that's right.
I know you monitor
We're
us.
constituents.
I know that NSA is looking over. I just got two things. One, this coming Saturday is first Saturday of October.
Shameless plug.
For downtown, where all the merchants will have live music, weather pending, but it looks like Saturday should be a halfway decent day. It's a great time to come out. We have live music. All the restaurants are open on Main Street. The businesses are open on Main Street.
They'll all have little 400 signs.
They'll have
there.
little 400 signs hanging out there. And also this Friday night, I'll be playing at the Pilgrim Sands.
Shameless plug. Shameless plug.
6:30 to 9:30.
Thank you for the one-stop painting
Yeah.
pen.
Yeah. Thanks.
So
Keep going.
Pilgrim Sands, 6:30 to 9:30. Again, if it's Wednesday, it must be Talk of the Town and the Trace Amigos.
And if you see Ken and Karen around town, say hi. See you in 7.
See you in
God bless.
7.